In the quiet town of Palmdale, California, a young woman's dreams were brutally extinguished. Michelle O'Keefe was just 18 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. A college student with a passion for acting, Michelle was reaching for the stars. Her infectious smile and vibrant personality lit up every room she entered. Friends described her as kind-hearted and ambitious. She was the girl next door, with big Hollywood dreams. Michelle was studying at Antelope Valley College, balancing her education with auditions and small acting gigs. Little did anyone know that her pursuit of stardom would lead her down a dark and tragic path. On February 22, 2000, Michelle's life would come to a sudden, violent end. Her story would captivate a nation, leaving many questions unanswered and a community forever changed. The morning of February 22 dawned like any other for Michelle O'Keefe. She woke up excited, her mind buzzing with anticipation. She had landed a spot as an extra in a Kid Rock music video. She spent hours getting ready, carefully choosing her outfit and applying her makeup. As the sun climbed higher, Michelle set off for the video shoot. It was a decision that would unknowingly set in motion a chain of tragic events. She had no idea that these would be her final hours. As night fell on February 22, the Metrolink parking lot in Palmdale grew quiet. Most commuters had long since retrieved their vehicles and headed home, but one car remained. It sat silently in the dimly lit lot, harboring a grim secret. At approximately 9:30 p.m., Ray Jennings, a security guard on duty, made his rounds. As he approached the blue Ford Mustang, something caught his eye. He peered inside. What he saw would haunt him for years to come. There, slumped over the steering wheel, was the lifeless body of Michelle O'Keefe. Jennings immediately called 911. His voice trembled as he reported the discovery. Within minutes, the quiet parking lot transformed into a bustling crime scene. Police cars arrived with flashing lights, detectives swarmed the area searching for clues. The initial investigation revealed a horrifying truth. Michelle had been shot multiple times at close range. Her dreams, her future, her life, all snuffed out in a moment of inexplicable violence. As dawn broke, the community awoke to the shocking news. A beloved daughter, friend, and aspiring actress was gone. The hunt for her killer had begun. Ray Jennings seemed an unlikely suspect at first. A former military police officer, he had a clean record and a steady job. He was the one who discovered Michelle's body and alerted authorities. But as the investigation progressed, suspicion began to fall on him. Detectives found Jennings' account of the night's events inconsistent. He claimed to have heard gunshots but didn't investigate immediately. His knowledge of specific details about the crime scene raised eyebrows. Was this inside information or merely the observations of a trained professional? Jennings' military background became a double-edged sword. While it lent credibility to his initial statements, it also suggested he had the skills to commit such a crime. Investigators began to paint a picture of Jennings as a man with a dark side, hidden beneath his professional exterior. As weeks turned into months, the focus on Jennings intensified. The community, desperate for answers and justice, latched onto the narrative of the security guard turned killer. But was this rush to judgment obscuring the truth? The stage was set for a legal battle that would span years and change lives forever. Section 5. The Trial and Conviction, Justice Miscarried. The trial of Ray Jennings began in 2005, 5 years after Michelle's murder. The courtroom was tense, filled with grieving family members and a community seeking closure. The prosecution painted Jennings as a calculated killer, using circumstantial evidence to build their case. They highlighted Jennings' inconsistent statements and his detailed knowledge of the crime scene. Experts testified about bullet trajectories and blood spatter patterns. The defense argued that Jennings was simply a diligent security guard, unfairly targeted by overzealous investigators. The first trial ended in a hung jury, but the prosecution was determined. They tried again and again. Finally, in the third trial, they secured a conviction. In 2010, Ray Jennings was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison for Michelle O'Keefe's murder. To many, it seemed justice had been served. Michelle's family found some solace in the verdict, but others harbored doubts. Was the evidence truly conclusive? Had the justice system failed not just Ray Jennings but Michelle O'Keefe as well? These questions would linger, setting the stage for an unexpected turn of events. Section 6. A Glimmer of Hope. Enter Clinton Erick. As Ray Jennings began his life sentence, most believed the case was closed, but one man refused to let it rest. Erick, a former police officer turned private investigator, stumbled upon the case. Something about it didn't sit right with him. Erick began digging into the details of Michelle's murder. He pored over police reports, court transcripts, and witness statements. The more he investigated, the more convinced he became of Jennings's innocence, but proving it would be an uphill battle. Undeterred, Erick reached out to Jennings in prison. He listened to Ray's story, noting discrepancies between the official narrative and Jennings's account. Erick's instincts, honed by years in law enforcement, told him something was amiss. With dogged determination, Erick began to piece together an alternative theory of the crime. He tracked down overlooked witnesses and uncovered new evidence. Slowly but surely, he built a case that would challenge the very foundations of Ray Jennings's conviction. The fight for justice was far from over. Section 7. New evidence emerges, voices from the past. As Erick delved deeper into the case, two key witnesses emerged from the shadows of the past. Victoria Richardson and Andrew Stewart had been silent for years, their potentially crucial testimonies overlooked or ignored. Now, their voices would finally be heard. Victoria Richardson came forward with a startling revelation. She claimed to have seen two young men arguing with Michelle in the parking lot on the night of the murder. This contradicted the prosecution's theory that Jennings was the sole perpetrator. Her testimony painted a very different picture of that fateful night. Andrew Stewart's account further complicated the narrative. He reported hearing gunshots and seeing a car speed away from the scene. The description of the vehicle didn't match Jennings's car. These new testimonies cast serious doubt on the prosecution's case against Ray Jennings. Erick meticulously documented these new statements. He cross-referenced them with existing evidence, building a compelling case for Jennings' innocence. But would it be enough to overturn a conviction that had stood for years? The battle for truth and justice was about to enter a new phase. Section 8. The fight for exoneration. Armed with new evidence and witness testimonies, Erick took his findings to the Los Angeles County District Attorney's office. He presented a compelling case for Ray Jennings' innocence. The fight for exoneration had begun in earnest. Initially, the DA's office was skeptical. They had secured a conviction, and overturning it would be an admission of a grave error. But as they reviewed Erick's evidence, doubts began to creep in. The case against Jennings suddenly seemed far less solid than it had a decade ago. The legal battle that ensued was grueling. Erick and Jennings' new defense team faced numerous obstacles. They had to overcome legal precedents, bureaucratic red tape, and lingering doubts. But they persevered, driven by their belief in Jennings' innocence. As the fight dragged on, public opinion began to shift. Media coverage of the new evidence raised questions about the original conviction. The community that had once condemned Ray Jennings now began to wonder if a terrible mistake had been made. The stage was set for a dramatic reversal of fortune. Section 9. Freedom at last, Ray Jennings walks free. On June 23, 2016, after more than a decade behind bars, Ray Jennings took his first steps as a free man. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office had finally conceded that the evidence against him was insufficient. They moved to vacate his conviction. The moment was surreal for Jennings. He emerged from the courthouse blinking in the bright California sun. Supporters cheered. Journalists clamored for statements, but for Ray, the overwhelming emotion was one of bittersweet relief. He had lost 11 years of his life to a wrongful conviction. In the days that followed, Jennings struggled to adjust to life outside prison walls. The world had changed dramatically during his incarceration. Technology had advanced. His children had grown. He faced the daunting task of rebuilding his life from scratch. Despite the challenges, Jennings expressed gratitude for those who had fought for his freedom. He thanked Erick, his legal team, and the countless supporters who had believed in his innocence. But amidst the joy of his release, a somber question lingered. If Ray Jennings didn't kill Michelle O'Keefe, then who did? Section 10. The elusive truth, a killer still at large. With Ray Jennings exonerated, the investigation into Michelle O'Keefe's murder was reopened. Detectives returned to square one, re-examining old evidence and pursuing new leads. The community grappled with an uncomfortable truth: a killer was still at large. The testimonies of Victoria Richardson and Andrew Stewart became central. Detectives sought to identify the two young men Richardson claimed to have seen. They combed through records and interviewed potential witnesses. New theories emerged, but the trail had gone cold. For her family and the community, the lack of closure remained a painful reality. Section 11. Reflections on a Tragedy, Lessons Learned. Michelle O'Keefe's case reminds us of the justice system's fallibility. It shows the dangers of tunnel vision and wrongful convictions. Ray Jennings' exoneration came at a great personal cost. For Michelle's family, the case reopening was painful. They believed her killer was caught, now they face uncertainty. The community of Palmdale was deeply affected. It sparked conversations about justice system reform. This story is a testament to the complexities of justice.